The signal from beyond. The deep space anomaly. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cold viewport of the research vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the stars shimmer in the endless darkness of deep space. At 42, she had spent more years among the stars than on any planet, and yet the universe still managed to surprise her. Today's surprise, however, was unlike anything she had encountered in her 20-year career commanding deep space exploration missions. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency as her crew monitored their instruments. They were 3 months into what should have been a routine survey mission in the Kepler 442 system, mapping gravitational anomalies for the Interstellar Navigation Authority. Instead, they had stumbled upon something that defied every law of physics Elena thought she understood. Dr. Marcus Chen, the mission's chief physicist, looked up from his workstation with the expression of a man who had just watched mathematics itself break down and weep. His usually neat black hair was disheveled from running his hands through it, and his dark eyes held a mixture of excitement and terror that Elena had learned to recognize as the look of a scientist encountering the impossible. "Captain, you need to see this," Marcus said, his voice carrying the careful tone of someone trying not to sound completely insane. "The object we detected yesterday. It's not behaving like anything in our databases." Elena moved away from the viewport and approached Marcus's station, where holographic displays showed streams of data that looked more like abstract art than scientific measurements. "Explain it to me in terms that won't require a PhD in theoretical physics," she said. Marcus gestured to the largest display, which showed a three-dimensional representation of their target. The object appeared as a massive elongated shape, roughly 2 kilometers in length, drifting in the void between star systems. But as Elena watched, the shape seemed to flicker, occasionally becoming translucent or shifting position by several meters without any apparent movement. "It's a ship," Marcus said. "At least, we think it's a ship. The problem is, it keeps phasing in and out of our reality. Our sensors detect it as solid matter one moment, then as pure energy the next. Sometimes it doesn't register at all, as if it simply doesn't exist." Elena studied the readings with growing fascination. "How old is it?" "Based on the decay patterns of its hull material and the gravitational wake it's leaving in spacetime, we estimate it's been drifting out here for approximately 10,000 years. But here's where it gets really strange." Marcus pulled up another display showing energy signatures. "It's still active. Whatever power source it's using, it's still functioning after 100 centuries. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. Humanity's most advanced fusion reactors lasted barely 50 years before requiring major overhauls. The idea of technology operating continuously for 10 millennia was staggering. "Any signs of life aboard?" she asked. "That's the thing," Marcus said, his excitement bleeding through his scientific caution. "Our bioscanners can't get a clear reading. The ship's hull seems to be composed of materials that don't exist on our periodic table. It's like trying to scan through a wall made of theoretical physics." Elena felt the familiar tingle of discovery that had driven her to become an explorer in the first place. This was why she had left the safety of Earth's orbital stations to venture into the unknown regions of space. Recommendations. "Any sane person would say we should report this to Fleet Command and wait for a full xenorchaeology team," Marcus replied. "But the ship's position is slowly degrading. Whatever's keeping it stable in normal space is weakening. If we're going to investigate, it has to be now." Elena looked around the bridge at her crew of 12 specialists. They were good people, experienced professionals who had volunteered for deep space assignments precisely because they weren't satisfied with the ordinary. Still, what Marcus was suggesting would put all their lives at risk. "What's our worst-case scenario?" she asked. "Complete atomic dissolution when we attempt to match velocities with a ship that might not actually exist in our dimensional framework," Marcus said cheerfully. "Or we could accidentally trigger whatever defense systems an unknown alien species installed 10,000 years ago. Or the ship could phase shift while we're aboard and take us to a parallel universe where the laws of physics work differently." "And the best-case scenario?" Marcus's eyes lit up. We make the greatest discovery in human history and revolutionize our understanding of reality itself. Elena had always been a gambler at heart. It was what made her an effective explorer and probably what would eventually get her killed. Today, she decided, was not that day. "All right, people," she announced to the bridge crew. "We're going to take a closer look at our mysterious visitor. Dr. Chen, I want continuous scans of the ship's behavior patterns. Commander Torres, prep the shuttle bay for a potential boarding mission. And everyone else, start praying to whatever deities you prefer that we're not about to become the universe's most educational cautionary tale." First contact protocols. 3 hours later, Elena found herself suiting up in the shuttle bay alongside Marcus and two of her most experienced crew members, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, their electronics specialist, and Sergeant David Morrison, their security chief. The environmental suits they wore were humanity's best attempt at preparing for unknown conditions, but Elena knew that against technology 10,000 years more advanced than their own, the suits might as well be made of paper. The shuttle Endeavour was their most advanced craft, equipped with every sensor array and defensive system human engineering could provide. As they approached the alien vessel, Elena felt her breath catch in her throat. Up close, the ship was even more impressive and unsettling than their long-range scans had suggested. The hull was a masterwork of curves and angles that somehow worked together in perfect harmony. Its surface wasn't metal as she had expected, but something that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. Patterns of symbols covered the exterior, glowing faintly with colors that didn't quite match anything in the visible spectrum. As Elena watched, some of the symbols moved, rearranging themselves in complex sequences that hurt her eyes to follow. "The ship's responding to our approach," Marcus reported, his voice tight with concentration. "Energy levels are increasing, but not in a threatening way. It's almost like it's waking up." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the shuttle's environmental systems. Waking up from what? A 10,000-year nap? Before Marcus could answer, the alien ship's hull began to change. A section near what Elena assumed was the bow started to glow more brightly. And then, impossibly, an opening appeared. Not a hatch or an airlock, but simply an absence of hull where solid matter had been moments before. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim said, her voice barely above a whisper, "that opening is perfectly sized for our shuttle, down to the centimeter." Elena stared at the glowing portal. There was only one possible explanation, and it made her stomach twist with nervous excitement. "It's been watching us, analyzing our ship, our technology. It knew we were coming and prepared a welcome mat." Sergeant Morrison, ever practical, checked his weapon systems. "Could be a trap. Everything about this situation could be a trap," Elena replied. "But if we turn back now, we'll spend the rest of our lives wondering what we missed. Take us in, Dr. Chen." Slowly, the shuttle passed through the opening in the alien hull, and Elena felt a strange tingling sensation, as if they had moved through some kind of energy field. The sensation was followed immediately by a subtle change in the shuttle's instruments. Their atomic clocks, synchronized to Galactic Standard Time, suddenly disagreed by several minutes. Their navigation systems couldn't agree on which direction was up. "Time dilation effects," Marcus muttered, frantically checking his readings. "We're not just inside an alien ship. We're inside a localized space-time anomaly." The interior of the ship defied conventional architecture. Corridors stretched away in directions that seemed to fold in on themselves. Surfaces that appeared solid from one angle revealed doorways when viewed from another. Gravity was present but inconsistent, creating the disorienting sensation of walking on walls or ceilings that had somehow become floors. Elena led her team deeper into the ship, following corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The walls themselves seemed alive, responding to their presence with subtle changes in color and texture. Strange as it was, Elena felt no sense of threat from their surroundings. If anything, the ship felt welcoming, like an ancient cathedral built to inspire awe rather than fear. The heart of mystery. After what felt like hours of walking through impossible architecture, they'd reached what could only be the ship's central chamber. The room was vast, its ceiling lost in shadows that moved independently of any light source. In the center stood a crystalline structure the size of a small building, its faceted surface showing reflections that didn't match their surroundings. "My God," Marcus breathed, pulling out every scanner he carried. "The energy readings from that crystal are off the charts. It's not just powering the ship, it's powering something much bigger." Elena approached the crystal carefully, noting how the patterns of light within its structure seemed to respond to her proximity. "What kind of bigger?" "I think it's connected to other dimensions," Marcus said, his voice filled with scientific wonder. "Look at these quantum signatures. It's not just a power source, it's a gateway. This ship isn't just traveling through space, it's traveling through reality itself." As if responding to Marcus's words, the crystal pulsed with brilliant light, and suddenly the chamber filled with images. Holographic displays showed star systems Elena didn't recognize, creatures she couldn't identify, and technologies that made human science look like cave paintings. But it was the final image that took her breath away. A species of tall, graceful beings with elongated limbs and faces that conveyed ancient wisdom. They were clearly the ship's builders, and as Elena watched, they seemed to be looking directly at her through the holographic display. One of the beings stepped forward, and when it spoke, Elena heard the words not through her helmet's communication system, but directly in her mind. "Greetings, young travelers. We are the architects of the deep, and this is our final gift to the cosmos. For 10,000 years, we have waited for a species worthy of our legacy. You are the first to pass our initial tests." Elena felt Marcus grab her arm, but she couldn't take her eyes off the holographic figure. "What tests?" "Your curiosity brought you here despite the danger. Your courage carried you aboard despite the unknown. Your compassion prevented you from attempting to claim our ship as a weapon. These are the qualities we sought." The chamber around them began to change, walls becoming transparent to reveal the true scope of the ship's interior. It was vast beyond imagination, filled with technologies and knowledge that could advance human civilization by millennia. But the greatest test, the architect continued, is yet to come. Will your species prove worthy of the power to reshape reality itself? The choice, as always, belongs to you. Elena looked at her team, seeing her own awe and terror reflected in their faces. They had come seeking scientific discovery and found something that would challenge everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. The question was no longer what they had found, but what they would do with it. The test of wisdom, the legacy of the architects. Elena stood transfixed as the holographic architect continued to speak, its voice resonating not just in her mind, but seeming to touch something deeper in her consciousness. Around her, the massive chamber continued its transformation, revealing layer after layer of incomprehensible technology that stretched far beyond what their initial scans had suggested. "Your species intrigues us," the architect said, its elongated form moving with fluid grace, despite being merely a projection from across 10 millennia. "In all our observations of developing civilizations, we have rarely encountered such a combination of reckless curiosity and surprising wisdom." Dr. Marcus Chen stepped forward, his scientific mind overriding his natural caution. "You've been watching other species. How many civilizations have you encountered?" The holographic figure turned its attention to Marcus, and Elena saw something that might have been amusement in its alien features. "In our time, we cataloged over 3,000 intelligent species across 47 galaxies. Most destroyed themselves before achieving interstellar travel. Others became so focused on military conquest that they lost their capacity for growth. A precious few transcended their physical limitations, but abandoned the universe of matter entirely." Lieutenant Kim's voice crackled through their helmet communications. "Captain, I'm picking up massive data streams throughout the ship. Whatever this thing is showing us, it's simultaneously downloading our entire database of human knowledge and history." Elena felt a moment of alarm, but the architect seemed to sense her concern. Do not fear, Captain Vasquez. We take nothing without offering more in return. We study your species not to exploit your weaknesses, but to understand your strengths. And what have you learned about us? Alina asked, surprised by her own boldness in questioning the being whose technology could presumably vaporize her without effort. That you are beautifully, chaotically unpredictable, the architect replied. Your species has a remarkable talent for finding third options when presented with impossible choices. When faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, you neither surrender nor blindly fight. Instead, you adapt, you innovate, you find ways to turn your limitations into advantages. The chamber around them shifted again, and suddenly they were surrounded by scenes from human history. Alina watched in amazement as holographic displays showed pivotal moments. The first humans leaving Africa, the development of agriculture, the invention of writing, the Industrial Revolution, the first steps on the moon, the construction of generation ships that carried humanity to the stars. But most remarkably, the architect continued, you have retained your capacity for moral growth, even as your technological power has increased. This is extraordinarily rare. Most species that achieve interstellar capability have either become extinct or effectively immortal tyrants ruling over stagnant empires. Sergeant Morrison, ever practical, spoke up. With respect to your ancient wisdom and all, but what exactly do you want from us? There's got to be a catch to all this. Alina winced at Morrison's bluntness, but the architect seemed pleased by the question. Direct and unafraid of authority. Yes, this is very human. There is indeed, as you say, a catch. We offer you the keys to reshape reality itself, but first you must prove that your species possesses the wisdom to use such power responsibly. The displays around them change, showing images of devastated worlds and dying stars. Power without wisdom leads to this. Civilizations that gain the ability to manipulate the fundamental forces of nature, but lack the restraint to use such abilities carefully. They rewrote the laws of physics in their local regions of space, created paradoxes that consumed entire star systems, or simply lost themselves in an infinite maze of parallel realities. Marcus was frantically taking readings with every instrument he carried, his excitement barely contained. The energy patterns suggest you're not just talking about advanced technology. You're talking about the ability to alter the basic constants of reality, to change how matter and energy interact at the quantum level. Precisely, Dr. Chen. The universe is not as fixed as your current science assumes. With sufficient understanding and power, the speed of light becomes a suggestion, entropy becomes reversible, and the barriers between dimensions become permeable. But such abilities come with responsibilities that extend beyond any single species or even any single universe. Alina felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. This wasn't just about humanity gaining access to incredible technology. This was about whether her species could be trusted with godlike power. What kind of test are you proposing? The architect gestured, and the crystal at the chamber's center began to glow more brightly. The test is simple in concept, but profound in implication. We will grant your ship temporary access to our reality manipulation systems. You will have the power to travel instantly to any point in spacetime, to alter matter at the subatomic level, to peer into alternate dimensions. How you choose to use these abilities will determine whether humanity receives our full legacy or whether this ship seals itself forever. Lieutenant Kim checked her instruments and looked up with wide eyes. Captain, I'm detecting massive changes in our shuttle systems. It's like someone just upgraded every component with technology I can't even begin to understand. Alina felt a moment of vertigo as she realized the magnitude of what was happening. They had come to investigate a derelict ship and instead found themselves serving as representatives for the entire human species in a test that would determine humanity's future among the stars. The moment of choice. The next few hours passed in a blur of impossible experiences, with the architect serving as their guide. Alina and her team explored capabilities that redefined everything they thought they knew about the universe. They'd watched Marcus use the ship's systems to peer into parallel dimensions where human history had unfolded differently. They saw Lieutenant Kim communicate instantaneously with their ship across vast distances by manipulating quantum entanglement on a macro scale. They witnessed Sergeant Morrison create and dissolve matter using nothing but focused thought and the ship's reality alteration systems. But it was when Alina herself interfaced with the ship's central systems that she truly understood the scope of what the architects were offering. For a brief moment, she experienced consciousness on a cosmic scale. She could perceive entire galaxies as single entities, feel the pulse of stellar formation and death, sense the hidden connections that linked all matter and energy across space and time. The experience was overwhelming and terrifying and beautiful beyond words. She understood, suddenly, why the architects considered this a test of wisdom rather than intelligence or courage. The temptation to use such power was almost irresistible. She could see solutions to every problem humanity faced: end scarcity by manipulating matter at the quantum level, prevent war by adjusting the neurochemistry of aggressive individuals, eliminate death by transferring consciousness between bodies or dimensions. But she could also see the dangers. Each change would have consequences that rippled across reality itself. Solve one problem, and 3 more would emerge. Use the power to enforce peace, and free will itself would become extinct. Grant immortality, and growth and renewal would cease forever. When Alina finally disconnected from the ship's systems, she found her team looking at her with expressions of concern and wonder. She realized that hours had passed while she was interfaced with the alien technology, though it had felt like only moments to her. "Captain," Marcus said carefully, "what did you see?" Alina took a shaky breath, trying to process experiences that human language wasn't equipped to describe. "Everything. I saw everything, and I understand why this is a test we can fail." The architect's holographic form materialized beside them, its ancient eyes fixed on Alina with an intensity that made her feel transparent. "And what is your decision, Captain Vasquez? Will humanity accept the responsibility that comes with ultimate power?" Alina looked at each member of her team, seeing the trust they placed in her judgment despite the impossible nature of their situation. These were good people, curious, brave, loyal, and fundamentally decent. They represented the best of what humanity could be, but Alina knew they also carried within them the same potential for both creation and destruction that defined their entire species. "We're not ready," she said finally, the words feeling like both defeat and victory. "Not yet. Give us a few more centuries to grow up as a species, to learn wisdom at the same rate we learn power. If you offer us godlike abilities now, we'll find ways to misuse them, no matter how good our intentions." She paused, then continued with growing conviction. "But we will be ready someday. That's what makes us human. We keep growing, keep learning, keep becoming better than we were. Ask us again in 500 years. Marcus stared at her in shock. "Alina, you're turning down technology that could solve every problem facing human civilization. I'm buying us time to become the kind of species that deserves that technology," Alina replied. "Power without wisdom destroys everything it touches." The architects learned that lesson from watching 3,000 other civilizations. We should be smart enough to learn it from their example. The architect was silent for a long moment, and Alina held her breath, wondering if she had just condemned humanity to remain forever limited to their current level of development. Then, slowly, the ancient being began to change, its holographic form becoming more solid, more present. In 10,000 years of testing species across the galaxy, the architect said, "You are the first to voluntarily reject power you were offered freely. This choice, more than any display of intelligence or courage, proves your species' potential for true wisdom." The chamber around them began to glow with warm golden light, and Alina felt a sense of peace settle over her that she couldn't explain. "Does this mean we passed your test?" "It means you have earned something far more valuable than immediate access to our technology," the architect replied. "You have earned our trust and our commitment to your species' future." The ship will remain here, waiting, growing more accessible as humanity develops the wisdom to use its gifts responsibly. When your species is truly ready, whether that takes centuries or millennia, the knowledge will be here. The return. As the horizon's edge made its way back toward human space, Alina stood once again at the viewport, watching the stars. Behind them, the quantum wanderer had returned to its patient drift through the void, its secrets locked away but not lost forever. Marcus joined her at the observation deck, still processing everything they had experienced. "Do you think we made the right choice?" he asked. Alina considered the question carefully. "I think we made the human choice. We turned down easy answers in favor of hard-earned growth. We chose potential over immediate gratification. That's what the architects were really testing, whether we could resist the temptation to take shortcuts. The xenorchaeology teams are going to be furious when they find out what we discovered and then left behind," Marcus pointed out. Alina smiled. "Let them be furious. In 500 years, when humanity has learned to balance power with responsibility, they'll thank us for our patience. And if we never develop that balance, well, then we'll never be worthy of what the architects were offering anyway." The ship continued its journey home, carrying within its databanks not just the record of their encounter, but something far more valuable: proof that humanity possessed the wisdom to know its own limitations and the courage to grow beyond them. Alina thought about the architect's final words before they departed. "Your species fascinates us because you understand that the greatest victories are often achieved by choosing not to fight. Remember this lesson as you continue to explore the cosmos. The universe has many gifts to offer, but the greatest gift is the wisdom to know when you are ready to receive them." As the stars wheeled overhead, Alina felt a deep satisfaction that had nothing to do with technology or discovery, and everything to do with the knowledge that humanity had taken its most important test and emerged not with new powers, but with new understanding of itself. The greatest adventure, she realized, was not exploring the universe around them, but growing into the kind of species worthy of the wonders they would one day find.